Walter Egan. How's it going with you?
It's going well, and happy to be talking to you.
That's great to hear. And how's life been treating you these days? You playing much music and stuff like that?
Well, you can never play enough music, but I try to do it as much as possible. I just got back from Atlanta last weekend where I played as part of the Yacht Rock Festival, which is an unusual genre. It's apparently Jimmy Fallon had something to do with promulgating this genre, which is like soft rock from the mid '70s to the mid '80s or something like that. It's an unusual rebranding of this music that I happen to fall into with Magnet and Steel. You know, it's funny for me because Magnet and Steel was kind of the odd song out in my stuff. I always think of myself as more of a rocker than a crooner. But you take what you get.
And it's what the legacy holds. It's a brilliant song. When you look at it, and today it still holds. And the YouTube numbers sure show what it is.
It's a wonderful thing. I mean, it was written in total honesty and sincerity. So there's a lot to be said for that in creativity. You create from the heart, and many times that's a good thing to do.
Now, Walter, you got quite a bit what we say like discography of music. Is there certain eras that you look into and you say this is great, and this ain't as great? What would be your most best era for Walter Egan? Discography.
Well, I always, as a songwriter, I always think that the most recent songs are the best. Of course, you love what old songs have done and accomplished for you, like Magnet and Steel and Hot Summer Nights. And actually, my first success was a song called Hearts on Fire, which was recorded by Graham Parsons on his last album before he died, on the Grievous Angel album. So, I certainly love the fact that those songs had some impact. But, recently I have a new CD up on iTunes. It's called Raw Elegant. And, I feel very strongly about those songs. It's a funny thing. I have sort of given myself the project this summer of typing all my lyrics into the computer, and I'm a very slow typer, so it's a very excruciating ordeal for me for the most part. But to go back over these songs and to see how my songwriting craft, if you want to call it that, has developed through the years, it's an interesting, very it's almost therapeutic. You get to look at times when things were very intense for you, and then looking back years later, you might have over-exaggerated that intensity at the time. But I think my new songs are as good as any that I've ever written, and I think that I'm singing better than I ever have. So I'd like to think that the current crop is right up there with everything else.
A lot of artists do say that, and it's too bad in the sense that FM radio, certainly FM radio, does not play these new songs from these artists, and yourself included. I mean, they might be played here and there, but to be played as the quality level that the classic stuff would be played.
Yeah, that's true. It has. Well, music is a trendy thing anyway. That's why I think it's so remarkable that the songs from the late '70s are so popular with this yacht rock crowd. There were 4,000 people at Piedmont Park to see this show the other night. I was on the bill with the house band, if you want to call it that. They're called the Yacht Rock Review, and they do these classic rock songs very well. But also on the bill were Gary Wright and John Ford Coley, Robbie Dupree. There are a lot of us that are still out there doing it, and you're right about FM radio sort of going away, but then again, satellite radio has somewhat taken its place. If you can find the proper genre channel for the stuff you want to hear, you might get some exposure. I have done some shows on, a few different channels on Sirius XM. So, but as as a creative person, as a songwriter, as an artist, really you have to hold on to the core of what fulfills you, and what fulfills you most for me is just to be able to create a new song and to write a new song. From there, it grows, exponentially. It goes out well. If you teach it to your band, and then you're able to play it in front of people, and people react to it, and that's a wonderful thing.
Mm-hmm.
You take it on to the next level of doing a demo or making an album, and then what we used to call albums, CDs, or now there's hardly even CDs, I guess. Then you have to go. I don't even know what term to use anymore. So technology takes us where it will, and the trends in music take us where they will. So you can only do what you do. If you start chasing the trend of the year or the trend of the moment, you just kind of lose yourself, I think.
Walter, what do you think of the internet world itself? Like, there's Facebook that people can connect to you and your music, and then you got Twitter and all this stuff. For an artist, how does that work these days?
I think it's great. It certainly has, let me know that there are a lot of people out there that are still interested in what I'm doing, and certainly that can only help as far as self-esteem and what you're trying to do goes, and to be able to publicize it and to keep people current. I personally haven't gone on to Twitter yet. I have a certain amount of privacy that I'd like to keep going, but Facebook I think is great, and I've been using it as much as I can, but I know that it could be used in greater ways. And it's a little bit confusing, all of the avenues that are available now through the internet, all these different startups, Reverb Nation, or I don't even know the names of a lot of them, but the platforms, I guess they're called, that you can expose yourself through. But the downside of it, of course, is that you're getting exposure, hoping that people will somehow either come to your show and pay money there, or buy a CD or buy a download. Whereas lots of times, people think that it's free because it's out there, and that's the hard part for us artists. It's like, you go to a club and the club says, well, if you'll play tonight for free, we'll see what happens in the future, and then it's like turning around and going to this club or this restaurant and say, well, come over and feed me for free, and if I like it, we'll see what happens. It just doesn't translate in the real world. People just think, oh, musicians are just out there and providing free entertainment. It's a real controversy these days among musicians.
They don't realize how much effort and work they put into their craft throughout all these years and stuff like that. It's less than minimum wage when you look at everything that you put in and invested in this stuff.
Yeah, well spoken. You say that as if you are a musician. Are you one?
Yes, I am as well.
Yeah, so you understand totally. It's the voice of experience. Yeah, it is. It's something that people just kind of take for granted, and you're supposed to entertain them. I mean, the arc of my career has gone in interesting ways. I mean, with Magnet and Steel and being around the Fleetwood Mac at the time of Rumors, because Lindsey Buckingham and Stevie Nicks were my producers, it was a remarkable magic carpet ride there. It was just all of a sudden doors were opening for me that I'd been banging against for years, and just to see people that you were so close to having such success as they had, it was a really wonderful time there, a couple of years, but it's hard to maintain that, and then you fall into trying to analyze, well, why didn't the follow-ups, why didn't you have another hit, why, and it's hard to say why, when you still try your best and sincerely try to make as good a music as you can. It's crazy, but now I am able to work on my own band, which is called the Walternative Band, and we play as much as possible. I'm about to leave for Los Angeles. I'm going out to do some shows with this band called the Malibooz, Malibooz. This was our high school band, and that was the first band I was in. It was a surf band, and we were actually opening for Dick Dale at the Malibu Inn on August 31st. So that's going to be fun next week to go out and do that. And as I mentioned, I had that song that Graham Parsons recorded, and so I have a legitimate connection to country rock as well. And I have last year I did a CD in a band called the Burritos, which is a distant cousin of the original Flying Burrito Brothers.
Mm-hmm.
And we did a CD for a German label, SPV, called Sound as Ever. And we tried to be very, very, honorable toward the original Flying Burrito Brothers album, Gilded Palace of Sin, which I still think is one of the best albums ever. So, I'm able to do these different genres, because as a songwriter, I like to write songs, whatever kind of song happens to come to my mind in that day or that time. And so to be able to exercise that in these three different bands is pretty cool. It'd be nice if we were making more money and having more gigs, but just the concept is great.
Now, Walter, let's say to finish off in a sense here, you write songs all the time. Now, do you have a whole collection of songs we've yet to see? Like for the hardcore fans.
I mean, the Raw Elegant represented the recordings I made in 2010 and 2011. And since then, I have about 20 new songs that I'm just, raring to go with, just waiting to get out there and play. I get to play them, living around Nashville as I do. There are a lot of these writers' nights, so I usually get a chance to at least try out a few of the new songs when I do these shows. So, it's a weird thing, Once I started writing songs, I was 16 years old, and something clicked in my brain, and it hasn't stopped since. I hear a line or I hear a melody, and I have to make it into a song. It's crazy.
As writer, also, do you use different types of instruments to start writing your songs? Like, let's say, a guitar, or go for a bass some days, or keyboards?
Yeah, not as much as I would like to, I suppose. I mean, I almost exclusively write on an acoustic guitar, but if I have a chance to sit around because I do play bass. I actually played bass for a band called Spirit for 3 years, the Randy California band, which was kind of a fun thing for me. So yeah, I try to write some songs on bass. I can play keyboards. I've sort of taught myself, enough to do my demos. I can do keyboards better on organ than piano, but guitar is really the way I mostly do it. Either that or just in my head. Lots of times when I'm driving around, I'll hear something and I'll start singing it, and then it comes up from wherever it comes from. It's a funny thing.
Walter, when it comes up, do you have a way to record it? Like nowadays, technology with cell phones is incredible. You can record anything.
That's true. Yeah. In the old days, you had to find a scrap of paper while you're driving if you wanted to write a line down and almost crash the car. Now you can just, punch a button on your phone and give yourself that message. Yeah, the technology is great that has it evolves, I think. And it's interesting how the retro technology sort of falls back in. I recorded my demos on a 4-track Fostex cassette recorder for many years. And now I'm thinking about using that cassette recorder to get a sound. It's a funny thing. So yeah, technology's great, and as long as you know how to use it.
That's the important part. You have to know how to use it.
Indeed.
Well, Walter, pleasure talking to you, and you keep him busy for the rest of the summer and stuff like that, playing lots of gigs, I'm sure.
Yeah, I don't know how far ahead this is, but as I said, I'll be playing in Malibu at the Malibu Inn on August 31st. I'll be playing in Franklin, Tennessee at Kimbrough's Cafe on the 8th of September, and at the Bell Court Theater in Nashville on October 3rd, and at Puckett's in Franklin on October 19th. Yes, those are the ones that come to mind at the moment here. So it's been a pleasure talking to you, Jason.
Well, excellent stuff, Walter. All right. Well, you keep up the great work and have a excellent summer.
And you too. I appreciate the interest and look forward to meeting you someday.